Well, I was born right here in Tyler. I was raised in White House. My mother was a single parent, so we spent a lot of time being raised by my grandparents. They had a log cabin out on Lake Tyler. Absolute paradise for a young kid growing up. There was woods to play in, and I was very much a country girl. You know, I hunted, we fished all the time. My grandfather taught us all of that. Yeah, I learned a lot of, kind of tough love lessons from him. He was a big part of my life growing up. My mom was a single parent, trying to make ends meet and go to school. And so my grandparents did a lot of raising, teaching us things. Reached high school, freshman, sophomore year, trying to plan my life out. I thought I had it all figured out. I was gonna graduate high school and go to college and be a teacher. I wanted to teach history. And then I remember sophomore year, we were sitting in first period biology class, Coach Adams. I remember he was always such a fun, jumping around, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and he gets a knock on the door, and Coach McAdams was at the door, and he, Coach Adams stepped out in the hallway, and when he comes back in, his whole demeanor had just completely changed, and we were all like, what's going on, what happened, and he didn't even say a word. Turned the TV on, and he told us, he was like, guys, we're not gonna be doing any classwork today. There's something that's happened, and we have been instructed that we're gonna watch the news today. And that was September 11th.
Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
I was 15, 16, and at first I was terrified. I was scared. And as the day progressed, I got angry. I got mad. And it lit something inside of me that, we had been wronged as a country. I wanted to do something about it. A few weeks go by, and I start talking to my mom, and I'm like, I think I want to join the Army. And I'll never forget, my mom stopped what she was doing, and she looked at me, and she kind of halfway smiled, because I don't think she knew if I was serious or not. And then she started crying, and she says, "You want to do what now?" And I said, I want to join the Army. And she asked me, after she kind of quit crying a little bit there, she was like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do? I thought you want to be a teacher." I was like, "I do, but I feel like I need to go do this first." She took me in and gave me this huge hug, and she said that she goes, I couldn't be more proud of you right now. So what was going to happen was I was going to graduate high school. I was going to do 2 semesters of college. And then at the end of the spring semester was when I would ship out for basic training. We got off of that bus carrying these huge duffel bags full of gear, and all you've got are drill sergeants screaming at you and hollering at you. And I've never been more scared of anything in my life. A bunch of grown men and women marching around, screaming at the top of their lungs. I mean, they had me terrified. The first day they call Hell Day, and they call it Hell Day for a reason. So much running and going and doing this and getting yelled at, and push-ups and front-leaning rest, and just having to sit there and hold that with your big old duffel bag strapped to your back. I was 19, but I was barely 100 pounds. I mean, I think my recruiter may have even had to fudge my paperwork a little bit just to make sure I could get in, because I was a tiny little thing. So it was definitely an adjustment period, trying to learn how to carry certain things and do certain things being as small as I was. There was this one girl, I could have sworn she was a bodybuilder. And there was one girl, she was mean. Oh, this little girl was mean. She was about 4 foot nothing. And I'm telling you, This little girl, I would not cross her in a dark alley anywhere. We had people from all over the country in our unit. And you get all these people together that have never, they don't know this person from that person. You're almost forced to have to get to know each other. Because you never know, later on down the road, that person is going to have your back in a combat zone. The MOS that I chose was 31 Bravo, which is military police officer. A lot of our training for that was not only to learn the stateside military police officer duties of working on a military post, but we also had to do specific training for combat. Some days it was OC qualification days, going to the 9mm range. We had the same rifle qualifications, the same grenade qualifications that most of everybody goes through. We did do some tactical training. You could compare it to SWAT team, specifically for like if somebody's broken into a bank on one of the military posts, or somebody's holed themselves up in a house somewhere, or high speed chasing through military installation, whatever the case may be. Military police officers are tasked with clearing buildings, detaining prisoners or prisoner transports. The differences between training as a soldier and your AIT as a military police officer is they gear it specifically for police work. So our job, when we're not out in combat, our job at home is to protect those at home, to protect the home front. After graduation, I go home for 30 days. I was going to spend a minimum of 3 years in Germany. That was my first assigned active duty station after graduation. I didn't know what life was going to hold for me. I didn't know what the military was going to do for me from that point forward. I just knew that I was going overseas. I was going to Germany. So I'm sitting at the airport, I'm waiting in line to get on the plane. And I started to feel, real lightheaded and all this. And the lady at the counter kept asking me, ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay? And I kept telling her, yeah, I'm fine. The next thing I know, I'm blacking out. I passed out at the airport, wake up in an ambulance with EMTs over me, asking me a bunch of questions, what my name is and all that. Come to find out, I had a condition called pericarditis, which is the development of fluid around your heart muscle. And it's typically due to some sort of viral infection. And that, unfortunately, rendered me non-deployable. So I was not allowed to leave or do anything out of the country without clearance from a doctor stating that I was in full health, ready to go. Ultimately, I was not allowed to do anything except go back to the same duty station that I had prior to my leave, which was Fort Leonard Wood. So the day-to-day life of a military police officer we can compare it to civilian police officers. There is a police station. We get calls all day, every day. Some days are nonstop, go here, go there, go, wherever we get called to. And then some days there's absolutely nothing. The most difficult calls are the ones that deal with people. I remember the call was kind of like an all hands on deck type deal. And we get there and it ends up being one of the basic training units. There was a basic training soldier, who had committed suicide during training. Somehow or another, this soldier was able to get live ammunition and had shot himself in the showers at one of the training units. And there was an investigation onto how he was able to obtain this. The day that we showed up to secure the crime scene was intense. It was the first time I had ever seen a dead person, and I'll never forget it. This kid probably couldn't have been more than, he's probably just barely 18. I remember being in his shoes. I remember being that, I don't want to be here. I want to go home, you know. But I can't imagine something being so bad that was a decision that he had to make. And I remember talking to my mom that night, and I told her, I said, Mom, I've had a really rough day. And I didn't go into details, but I told her that I had to secure a crime scene today. And it's been forever imprinted on my brain. And she prayed with me over the phone. It made a big impact. And it wasn't just me either. I don't think even my staff sergeant, who showed up there with me that day. I think I watched it affect him for weeks. But, you know, you learn to kind of, you take things in stride. You know, every day's a new day. I never knew as an active duty MP what my day was going to hold. The suicide was the first thing that I had really done as an active duty MP stateside at my unit. This was shortly after that we get another call, and it was a domestic violence call. It's difficult because as a military service member, you understand the hardships. You know, whether you've been deployed or not, you understand the hardships that come with that. You know, you go overseas for many, many months, and then you come home and things are different. You know, you're on edge all the time, and you don't need to be, and it creates a lot of tension and a lot of stress in military households. It's sad, but a lot of the time the family is the one that gets the brunt of all of the depression or the anxiety or the anger or the, you know, whatever it is they're dealing with. So we get a call. We go out to this guy's house. We pull up, and there's 4 squad cars that show up to this. And my sergeant tells me to hang back. As military police officers on a military base, you have a little bit more insight to kind of who you're going to be talking to and kind of, you know, what branch of the service they are, that kind of thing. We don't know if this individual is armed. We know he's a big guy. So I'm standing in the front yard, and I'm waiting to find out what's going on inside. The only thing I know for a fact that I've been told is that the wife and the 2 kids have barricaded themselves in the bathroom. The front door was practically off its hinges already. And I can hear him in there screaming and hollering at his wife. There's so many things that go through your head, especially as a young MP. You know, I don't know, am I gonna have to help tackle this guy? Am I gonna have to draw my gun? Heaven forbid I gotta draw my gun. Am I gonna have to shoot somebody? You know, you start going into that fight or flight mode. You know, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna react? So my sergeant had told me that him and one of the other guys were gonna go in and detain this guy and bring him out. My job was to go in and retrieve the wife and the kids and take them out the back door and go around to the other side of the house. I remember walking into that house and just seeing the path of destruction that this man had done. Couches flipped over, you know, the TV was busted and on the floor, holes in the walls, I mean, just stuff scattered everywhere. And I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what am I going to find when I get to this wife and kids? There was some hand prints, smeared blood on the wall of the hallway. And I go and I knock on the bathroom door, and I tell him, you know, hey, this is, you know, military police, you know, it's safe now, you know. And then it's like the door is slowly opening, and I'm seeing each individual being revealed as the door opens. It was like a movie. It's this little girl. I mean, she's probably 6, 7. And then she has an older brother who's probably 9. The door opens up all the way, and there's Mom sitting on the side of the tub. And if I hadn't known that it was a woman, I wouldn't have been able to tell. The damage done to this woman's face was it. As a human being, I don't feel like any other human being should ever do that kind of thing to another person. It took a lot of restraint not to march back out that door and go give a guy a piece of his own medicine. It was absolutely horrible. I was able to get the wife and the 2 kids safely out of the house. I radioed in for EMS because she was gonna need it. They showed up and Mom's getting looked at, and I'm sitting there on the steps of the ambulance with the 2 kids, and neither one of them were crying. And I kept asking them, are you guys okay? Do you guys want a blanket? I can get you guys some hot chocolate, whatever. And they were like, no, we're fine. And the son said something to me that I'll never forget. This is just another Tuesday. And that just, it hit me like, this child has been living like this for so long. It's just become another Tuesday to him. I'm so thankful that we do have current programs in place to help service members with issues, depression, PTSD. I'm a very big advocate for these programs because I've seen it firsthand. Despite how much I wanted to stay in and do this as a full-time career, unfortunately, due to the pericarditis, I was deemed non-deployable. And upon further doctor's visits and screenings and testings and stuff, they refused to allow me to change that status from non-deployable to deployable. I would spend my entire career stateside, and I would never see a combat zone ever. Or they gave me the option to med board out. I couldn't help but think back to the whole reason why I was there in the first place. I couldn't see spending the rest of my active duty career stateside. And I ultimately made the decision to take the med board. Do I regret anything about my military service time? Absolutely not. My time in the service, the whole 2 years I was in, it made me who I am. I have a patch that I wear on one of my leather vests that we wear when me and my husband go ride the motorcycle. My dad actually bought it for me and gave it to me. And he told me, he's like, I want you to remember this. And it says, it's not that I can and others couldn't. It's that I did and others didn't. Me and my husband actually just celebrated 9 years of marriage. We have 3 wonderful little boys. I say little, they're not so little anymore, but I have a 15-year-old stepson, and then we have a 10-year-old son and an 8-year-old son. And they're all very much aware that, Mom was in the Army, and, some of them think that it's just the coolest thing in the world. And my oldest son has talked about wanting to join the military. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but my mother supported me in my decision. And if that's something that he wants to do, then ultimately I'm going to support him as well. And then my 10-year-old son, actually I had done a presentation with his class. He wanted me to come in and talk about, Mom's military service with his class. And so I did a little thing, and I went up there, and he just seemed like he was just so proud. Mom was in the Army, and he talks about it. 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to take our kids to Branson, Missouri, right? We went on a spring break vacation to Branson. And I was like, you know what? I got to looking it up on the map, and Fort Leonard Wood is only an hour and a half away. So one of our vacation days, we loaded the kids up in the truck. We drove an hour and a half, and we went to Fort Leonard Wood. The biggest thing was I took them to the MP Museum and walked around the museum, and we saw all the different uniforms and the weapons and all the different things. And it was kind of like going back in time for me. But just to be able to share that with my kids after them hearing all the stories, and now it's not just stories anymore. Now it's an actual real thing. Like they know that, this is an actual real place and this was actually where Mom was. And so being able to share those kind of things and see them get excited about it, just really makes me feel good. Roy he's absolutely wonderful. We are in a totally different type of combat zone right now, raising 3 boys, and one of them is 15. So that's a whole nother type of warfare going on there. But he is definitely my battle buddy when it comes to that. He's very, very veteran supportive as much as I am, because he knows he's married to one. He's very, very proud to say that his wife, and maybe that's just because he gets veteran discounts when he goes to Lowe's and Home Depot. I don't know. Looking back on it now, I realize that I had surpassed so many obstacles and overcome so many hardships, from the first day of basic training with the drill sergeant yelling at me over my glasses, up until the day that they gave me the choice for med board. Looking back on all of that, everything that happened from day one till then, I had done what a lot of people thought I couldn't do. And I had handled things that I never thought I could ever handle before. And I dealt with a lot of things that most people would shy away from. And here I am running headfirst into it. So having that faith that God's with me all the time got me through a lot of that. And looking back and comparing the little 19-year-old girl that I was when I joined to the 36-year-old woman I am now, he was right there with me the whole time through everything. He allowed me to go through certain things because he knew that I was going to have to become the strong woman that is sitting here today.